Hey guys, we're gonna finish our Italian session here of cooking. We've made croutons, we've made spaghetti, we've made meatballs. Now we're gonna try to make the pasta. I have never made handmade pasta before, so we're gonna try this out, see how it works. I do need to use directions. I don't know it very well, but I do know that there's not a lot of ingredients, so that's a good part. First thing, I'm going to do all my wet ingredients. That means the things that have liquid with them. So I'm going to start off by getting my eggs. I know I need 4 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk, and we're going to start cracking the eggs. And I'm going to try to get my yolk first because I've never done that before. And that one didn't work. So getting the egg yolk might be a challenge for me. I don't want the egg white, so I think I need to get a different bowl. Alright, so that's 3 eggs. I have 2 more attempts here. I'm glad I thought about doing this before I was down to my last egg. Okay, so trying to get the egg white out. Oh, almost had it, not quite. All right, so we'll put that one into my mix here. Okay, final attempt, last one, best one. I have a good feeling about this. I hope you guys do too. Okay, getting the egg white out, hanging off. Okay, there we go. I think I got most of it out that time. Still a little bit left in there. You know, for my first attempt, or I should say my third attempt, that's just the egg yolk. Okay. And that's what the recipe called for. I don't really know why. I don't know much about using bread products, but I do know you need to be pretty exact with your measurements. Okay, quick hand wash. Anytime you handle raw eggs, you want to make sure you wash your hands afterwards. Okay, so I got my eggs. Now I need, I believe it was 1/4 olive oil, 1/4 cup. So I'm going to get my measuring device. It says 1/4 on there. If you don't have things that say cups and they're just milliliters, you will need to do conversions. You will need to go onto the internet and type in how many ounces 1/4 cup equals. Sorry, I mean how many milliliters 1/4 cup equals. Okay, my oil's in there. All right. And I know I needed some salt. It didn't say how much, so I'm totally guessing on the salt amount. But usually if they don't tell you how much, it shouldn't be too much. I'm just going to check to make sure that I got all of my ingredients. Yeah, so that's all my wet stuff. So I'm going to get a fork and start beating it a little bit. And normally when I've seen people make pasta, they will do it all on the countertop. But I know that there's a risk of that falling onto the ground and getting too messy. And since I've never done it before, I didn't want to try to start for my first time in my first video. So I'm going to do it in a bowl rather than the countertop. But like I said, normally they'll put the flour here in a big heap and then spread it out and put the wet ingredients into the middle. Okay. So this is just all-purpose flour. It's used to make birthday cakes and different things of the sort. And it said 1 pound of flour. Okay, I did have to look it up myself. I googled how many cups are in 1 pound of flour, and surprisingly, there were different amounts of cups for different types of flour. So for all-purpose flour, the type I'm using, it was 3 2/3 cups. Okay, so this is my first cup, and I'm looking and I'm wondering, based on how much I have there, it'll be enough. So when you're measuring cups, you want it to be nice and top at the very top, and just graze it in there. So I'm going to finish it off with 1 more or 2 more scoops. Okay, you don't want to pat it down the way that they traditionally measure. Okay, so that's nice and full there. So I need 3 2/3 cups. I got my wet ingredients, I got my dry ingredients. I'll put this off to the side so it's not in the way. I do want to do one last thing, because I did notice some clumps in here. I don't want to have those clumps when I'm mixing. It might make it harder to make the dough. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it a stir, try to break up any clumps that I had in here. And I can tell that it is hard to see, and I apologize for that. But sometimes it happens. Okay, got most of them out. And I'm still going to try to recreate what they wanted. So they say make a big hole in the middle. So I'm going to make a big hole as best I can. Stir that up a little bit more. And I'm just going to put a little bit in at the beginning and start mixing. So I don't know if you can see in the middle here, but I'm just trying to keep it in the middle, slowly mixing the flour in with the eggs and the oil. Okay, so if I was doing this on the counter, I'd be doing the same thing, except I'd be a little bit more nervous about breaking the sides. Here, I'm lucky I have the sides. I've also seen that some people can do it with a mixer, electronic mixer. I wanted to try it the old-fashioned way, so I'm just slowly getting all the sides in there. It's a slow process. It normally takes, from what I've read, 15 to 20 minutes to actually do all of this. So I might actually pause the video while I keep mixing, just so you don't have to watch me for 20 minutes trying to knead and mix. But I do want to show you what it looks like as I keep adding more ingredients. Okay, it's starting to get into a batter. Okay, and it's starting to get a little bit thicker. Okay, and there's lumps in there now. I was reading that the lumps are normal, and they'll come out through the kneading process. And kneading, for those of you that don't know, is taking the dough, kind of what you see at a pizza place where they go like this and they beat it down. There's still a lot of flour in there, but it's starting to look like a big ball, and it's starting to stick together more and more. And I think this will just take a while, especially my first time trying to do it. I don't know if it's too early for me to get my hands in there. I feel like it might be. But you saw me making the meatballs. I did wash my hands before I started this. And I'm kind of a hand cooker. So I don't know if it's the best thing to do, but I'm going to try it out. Okay. For me, I just feel like it would help mix everything a little bit quicker than relying and waiting on a fork. But yeah, I'm going to add a tablespoon of water to try to help incorporate the rest of those ingredients into the dough. Because I'm not quite at the kneading part yet, and it needs, my guess, a little bit more liquid. And my countertops are clean. because once I get all the flour mixed into this dough, I am going to start needing to use some body weight to really knead the dough. So once this is all mixed together, and I feel like I have all the flour, I'm going to really need to mix it and mash it as best I can. Okay, this is going to be a two-part step process, because after you mix and knead the dough, you will also need to actually let it sit for at least 1 hour in plastic wrap. And that's if you're using it right away. You don't need to refrigerate it. If you do plan on using it later, like for me, I'm going to cook it tonight. So I will actually put it in the plastic wrap in the refrigerator, and then combine it and take it out later to try to roll it out and hopefully have some fresh pasta. So we'll see. Okay, you can see now I have a ball, but it still has a lot of raw dough flour, which you can't really see with this light, but there is some on there. So now is the time for me to go to work and really start kneading this. Okay, this is my exercise for the day. I'm gonna put this aside and work directly onto the countertop. Okay, and as I was reading, they said for people that have done this before, that are professionals, it takes them about 8 to 10 minutes. And they say if it's your first time, oh, just hit my head on the corner here. If it's your first time, it might take 10 to 15 minutes. They say the biggest problem is most people don't really put enough force and power into it. Okay, so this is going to be a challenge. Okay, but you don't need to watch me do this the whole time. So I'm going to stop the video in just a moment and knead this for about 10 or 15 minutes in my own time. And then I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap. You might have seen pictures, but I will make sure to start off with the saran wrap so you see the finished product. Okay. As I continue this video, I will connect them together. Okay. So that's how you get started. It feels kind of soft to my touch. It's kind of like a nice Play-Doh. Usually Play-Doh is really grainy. This one's getting a little bit thinner, a little bit smoother, and I was told, or I read, that this should feel like it's velvety to the touch. Okay, so really what we're trying to do is mix and make sure that we get all of the flour totally mixed in there. Okay, I don't know if there's a better, more technical way to do it. This is how I'm doing it. Okay, so we'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, welcome back to the kitchen. We are in the final episode of my Italian tutorials on how to make Italian pasta, meatballs, and spaghetti sauce. Okay, so just before I made my dough, it's been resting and sitting. So now I'm gonna try to do the final part, which is roll it out and make some noodles, right? So I haven't done this before. I have no idea it's gonna work. I don't even have the proper equipment. I don't have a rolling pin. I have sushi mat that I wrapped in plastic, and then old roll from the tin foil. So we'll see. As always, I've washed my hands before I started. I've also washed my countertop so I can roll this out, hopefully roll it out. So since this has a middle part, I'm going to try this first and see if I can start rolling it. It's probably actually a better idea. I just cut this in half to begin with. And maybe I want to thin it out first. Okay. And anything I said, it didn't say if I should take out. Well, this part was, I think, exposed to air, so it's a little bit crispy. So I'm just going to take that off. Okay. But the rest feels nice and smooth, velvety. And I'm just going to smash it by my hand first. to start the rolling process, just because I think it would take a very long time if I try to do this all without a rolling pin. Okay, and I think I'm probably gonna take another half of this off because I do know it's gonna keep getting squished, and that's just from watching TV shows about people cooking and rolling it. Okay, so I have a piece that I think I can work with, and I'll try to roll it out. I know in general you want it to be pretty thin.
And it's okay for homemade pasta to not be exactly uniform. Okay, so it's not going to look like a box pasta that you get in the grocery store. Okay, so I'm going from side to side and up and down. And as it's starting to come out, it's starting to get bigger. Okay, that's still going to be too thick for my noodles, but I feel like I got something I can work with here soon. And we're getting pretty hungry, so I might just do this first test piece, try it out, boil it up, and start eating and save the rest of my dough maybe for tomorrow. But make sure that I cover it properly, because as I said, that one piece has some bad ends on it.
So some people have machines to roll it out. I don't have one of those, but I'm getting pretty happy. You can kind of start seeing through it, but I think it still needs a little bit more. I've seen people usually dust, put a little flour down and dust it, so I might do that because it did get sticky on the countertop there.
So we're going to keep going, see what happens. Hopefully this will work. Just keep going, stretching a little bit more. So I'm just going to try to thin it out, because I don't like my noodles to be too thin. So I'm just going back and forth. And yeah, it's starting to get stuck to the tabletop there. Okay, but kind of thin enough. I can see through it a little bit. So for my first attempt, I'm going to go with this level. I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit. Probably not the best way to do it, but yeah. Try maybe one more pass. But I'm afraid it might start ripping. And now it's getting real easy to roll out.
Alright, well, I'm going to go with this. I can see that it's slightly see-through. It's about the thickness of a noodle. And I read that you should fold it in half like this, and then fold it in half, they overlap, and do it 2 more times. Alright, so 2 gently, and I'm going to cut it, and we're going to make, I guess, kind of more like a fettuccine. So we'll see how this works if I folded it properly. It says you can stick your knife in there to undo it, but I don't know if my knife would have fit in there. So I got one noodle of sorts. So I guess I can keep cutting these. And it's a little bit gooey, so I don't know if I can actually get my knife in there. If my noodles, this is starting to stick to each other, I probably needed some flour. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna try to boil these 2. All right, so I've been boiling my noodles to try them out. Okay, left those in a little bit longer. But I did take some out to test them out. Good news is the flavor was pretty good. The texture was a little bit chewy. So you can see here some of it. It's a little bit thick, but it's about right. I do think it needs to cook a little bit longer, so I'm going to try leaving that in. And then you can see here I kept rolling that piece again. I did add a little bit of flour to the countertop here. And that way it's a lot easier to pick up and move around. So I'm going to try to roll it thinner this time and hope for better results with my noodles. So the good news is we're getting closer. Bad news is I still got to try it out. Really wish I had a roller or especially a pasta machine. I think would really get this nice and thin, but I'm learning. It's getting better. So let's keep rolling a little bit and just try to get this thinner. Once I add the flour, it was a little bit harder to roll out as much, but now it's starting to work better. So it does take a little bit of extra work. It has a little bit more spring. I don't know why. But it's almost getting to the point where I need to cut this in half so I can keep rolling it. Okay, right now that is probably about 4 millimeters thick. I'm guessing we probably want to get it closer to 2. So I'm going to keep rolling that.
To try to get nice and thin. Okay, this is starting to look like it might be about what I need. Well, the good news is, yeah, I can see it's a lot thinner than the first go round. And it's scraping really nicely now. So, I might try a little bit more until we're getting really close. I'm going to take my other noodles out. That took a little bit longer because they were thicker. So hopefully with fresh pasta, you'll need to boil it for about
30 seconds. So we'll see. This is really thick. This almost looks more like a German noodle, Spätzle. And it, to be honest, the first flavor, it tasted a little bit like Spätzle. I'm not sure. Spätzle might be made with potatoes. Okay, let's try this out. Has a good chew. So I do think thinner will be better.
one last press here. See if I can get that thin down. Alright, I think that's about what we need.
Okay, so I'm going to try that technique that I saw, but I am going to add a little bit of flour here. Hopefully that won't stick like it did last time. Okay, so fold, 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 and fold, and just thin. I don't want it to be too thin. And hopefully I can get this to separate this time. Okay, this piece and this piece I can throw back in to roll. Okay, so yeah, this is unrolling a lot better this time, and it looks a little bit more like real noodles there. So excited about that. So I'm going to boil these up, try them out, let you guys know how they were, and as that's happening, I will keep rolling some of my other noodles out. Okay, so I'm boiling my water. I've put some salt in there to get it salty, to add a little bit of flavor. So this is my second batch of noodles that were a little bit thinner. So we're going to let those boil for about a minute or two. So I'm just trying this out, but I start seeing that, and maybe you can see it, they're starting to float. And I've read that that is a good sign. That means they are cooking properly. So hopefully this is good news. Just going to give them a little stir just to make sure they're not on the bottom.
But I don't think they are. So let those cook a little bit longer. Make sure that all the flour is cooked out of it. Okay, so this is my first test batch. I guess my second test batch really. They've now been in there for about 1 minute. So we'll go a little bit longer. Again, with fresh pasta, you don't need to cook it as long as the dried pasta. I can see that the noodles are starting to get a little bit thicker as they cook. It's probably absorbing some of the water, but that is looking really good to me. So I feel like this recipe that I found works. Might just need to tweak it and practice making it a few more times. Make sure that these all just get
Cooked all the way through. I'm going to take one piece out, and that looks like a nice piece of spaghetti right there. Kind of fat, kind of like a fettuccine. Okay, but that's pretty good. Let's test it out. Ooh, it's a little bit hot. Let's test it out though. Oh yeah. Oh. Salt. I salted the water that time. The noodles thinner. It makes a huge difference. So definitely salt your water. Definitely make sure your noodles are thinner. I think that's pretty much cooked. So I can't wait to put this all together with my spaghetti and meatballs that I made from the other day. So that will be coming as soon as I get all this other dough rolled out and ready to go. But I'm gonna have a little snack before I do that. All right, guys, we're getting ready to eat here. We finished rolling half of our dough. The other pasta dough we actually re-wrapped. Hopefully we can use it again tomorrow. I don't know. But if you leave it out in the air, I could start feeling it get a little dried out. So if you are like me, re-wrap it right away. Only take out what you think you'll use. So that portion was probably enough for 5 people, I would say. So we did about half, so there's only 2 of us here. So it should be good. So re-wrap it. I'm gonna put it in the fridge. Hopefully it works out. Okay, so over here you guys see all my pasta. I can also tell that you probably don't wanna leave this sitting out too long because it's starting to get a little bit hard. But here are my thicker noodles, okay, that I did. So I'm going to put those in the water. The water is just about to start boiling. Okay, and remember I did put a little bit of extra flour on these so they wouldn't stick together. And then here are some thinner noodles. Oops, just drop some on the floor, and that's horrible because you don't want to waste your food. Okay, but we got some thinner noodles too, so we'll check it out. Some of these might be sticking together. Hopefully we have enough water in there so they don't stick in the pot. You see that these are hard to come across to unstick. So hopefully those will work out for us. I am going to mix those real quick. And I'll just try to make sure that they do unstick. Part of the reason you put salt in there is so they don't get stuck. Okay, get the rest of my noodles in there. All different shapes and sizes. They all taste the same though. And we're getting hungry. So I'll eat anything right now. So as those cook for the few minutes that we need them to, I have my pasta from yesterday rewarming. I got my meatballs in there. I did put those in there, so there's a nice big meatball. Okay. I also put in some Italian sausage that I found at Auchan in Crescent Mall. So there's some sausage, some meatballs, of course my meat sauce, and you can see how thick that is. Okay, maybe I should turn it that way. That's almost exactly how I like it. So rewarmed it. I'll give these another turn here. Since I put more in there, I'm going to let them go a little bit longer. And while those finish up, I'm going to get my strainer out. Okay, that way I can just take them out and get the hot water out as soon as I'm ready, because we are going to have a feast. Okay, so those look pretty good. Test one just to make sure. That is one of my thick ones. Okay. I do know that I can turn the water down or off because they will keep cooking as that one cools down enough for me to try to eat it. I do like to try my food. That's how you know it's good. Yeah, a little bit of chew, good flavor, pretty much good to go. I let those sit there for maybe 1 more minute. Gonna get my Parmesan cheese out of the freezer so I can grate that onto the top, and we're gonna be eating real soon. So I put my Parmesan cheese in the freezer because I think it will be easier to grate when I put it over the top. Okay, now the one thing with Parmesan cheese, it is a crumbly cheese to begin with. Okay, so I took a little block off, put that there, and I'll put the rest back into the freezer. All right, I think my noodles have been sitting long enough. I know I have, and I don't want to wait anymore. Ooh, that is hot. Always be careful when you're using stuff on the stove. Okay, I'm going to do this over the sink. And some people like to toss their noodles in the sauce first. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just like to put it in the plate. Okay, look how good those look. All right, nice and hot, piping hot. I'm gonna put on some sauce. Make sure I get 2 meatballs in there. There's 2 of us eating. So 2 meatballs and at least 1 more sausage here. All right. Now it's up to you how much sauce you want to put on there. I like a little extra sauce, but you can always go back for more. Okay, so we're almost ready to eat. But gotta do the final finishing touch. Parmesan cheese, grated over the top. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, and be careful if you're using one of these graters. They are very sharp. They can hurt you, so please be careful. Okay, I like a lot of cheese. It is up to you how much you want to try. Okay, that's good for now. I can always add some more later, so I'm going to put this off to the side. And I'm going to grab a fork and try a bite real quick just to finish this off, and then I'm going to go eat because we are starving. We've been wanting to eat this pasta with the spaghetti and meatballs for the last day and a half while I've been making all these videos for you guys. Oh, can't wait for this. Wow. Got some nice meat flavor, garlic flavor. A fresh pasta is amazing. Oh, sorry that you guys can't have some of this, but if you try to make it at home, you can have it. Wow. Good night.